Welcome, guys. I'm gonna do a video recording of me just talking about why Shaligrams, specifically Shaligrams, although also Ammonites, but through Shaligrams specifically as the foot in the door, this ain't going away. These are not fossils. That's what we're talking about. So here we go. Fossil A. Supposedly, according to science, a shell was present here to create the shape. Yes. Presumably, the shell was contained within this rock to create the shape. And so, why did the shell disappear after the rock was able to take shape from the shell's presence, but then the rock was still malleable enough to collapse right here? I have Shaligrams. Pardon me, Shaligram. I know you're a living god. It's like, what do you want? Hello. Pardon me, Shaligram. People are like, stop it. Why? Oh, yeah. Okay, so anyway, solid as a rock because it's a rock, and yet it somehow collapsed here. Let's go. Let's just keep going. Oh, I could have sworn I had more pictures of that one. I guess here's the top. Just because something pressed on it, like right here, like another one just kind of rested here atop it and just pushed in while this rock was still malleable. How it was malleable, I don't know. Geologists want every answer from me. I posted on Reddit about this, and it really got me like, you guys are expecting too much. Like, first of all, I said they're caused by currents. Now you want me to describe the exact currents. But I'm pointing out this is like right here. No one's addressing this. No one's like explaining to me a tangible way that a shell was present within this rock, that the rock then post the shell becoming extracted, presumably by deterioration, because it still contains this structure within the innards of the shell, which wraps around it and has no way to just slide out, like leaving behind this shape. So it can't just have slid out. So it had to like come out somehow. And it, so like the best scientific explanation that could be presented for to maintain a fossil interpretation is that this imprinted the fossil. The fossil then broke in pieces, scooped it out, and then the rock, still malleable enough, was indented. It's ridiculous. So that's me giving the best actual fossil explanation when just that currents created like a bubble of space, because that's what currents do, as I've shown. For instance, I don't want to just make claims without referencing at least something. Like, I'm sure pretty much any of these folders, like here, they make space. Because that's what currents do. They just make space. Like this one. Make space. Literally shape a shaligram into the side of a mountain, dude. Not a fossil. The curves on that, baby. You want to talk about them curves? Look at them curves right there. That shit. Okay, before I move on from this one, though, a theme that I'm gonna present going forward: currents. Okay, what are these currents? People want to know. So I'm like, okay, well, look at the frickin' thing first of all. Let's look at it. It's pretty solid, and yet it was malleable somehow. So something made it malleable. So basically, it was probably hot. Whether it was molten, like molten implies to me like it's like this was a solid rock. Didn't like it had other Shaligram rocks adjacent pressing into it, like here resting on it, just a bunch of them piling together. That's my interpretation of what was probably pressing on it most directly, and then the Shaligrams had some overall force on them from probably many sides that was just compacting them under high pressure but into one another. But they were solid enough that they didn't like conjoin when they were pressed together. They just flatten the surface, and so there's a pressure through a flattened surface that I'm going to say is related to where within the rock a spiral from the currents, basically currents colliding either this way or also this way, depending on things. I'm not exactly sure. In this instance, it looks like maybe it's hard to say. At most, I can say definitively this face is a flat face. Perhaps down here where it just like squeezes it like this. And that just induces a current upward and outward and downward and outward, which then kind of just pinches at a region that then creates kind of like a zone that the current doesn't directly flow as much, but it shapes around it. It just begins to create like an outward flow, and then presumably a spiral because it's just stuck in the rock. Like it doesn't want to continue to go. It just wants to like stop, but there's this current pushing behind it, kind of like a stampede of people where people are just like, they don't want to go forward, but everyone's just pushing forward. So like the people just get pushed forward, and then they get pushed like, okay, let's move on to more rocks because there's many more Shaligrams. Oops, probably shouldn't have closed Shaligrams then. Okay, so again, kind of flat surfaces. This one, notably, they're not at the same angle. Like, they're not 180 degrees opposite. So there's things of that nature that are just worth noting. Again, this one doesn't really have flat surfaces to reference directly that I took pictures of. This neither, but again, it is like along the elongated segment. I mean, people will say that's just because the fossil, blah, 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 but like I refer you to the first Shaligrams. Inability to be explained by fossils. It just cannot be explained that way, as I mentioned. Okay, here's another one. That's fine. I don't have much to say on that. That's just, these are my earlier pictures, so they were more just pictures of Shaligrams that I was just taking from places like Etsy. These are all from Etsy and eBay, and the indirect anywhere I found online that sells shaligrams, because that's pretty much the only place to find pictures of shaligrams, unfortunately. Because there's probably a lot of really cool shaligrams that people have, but just there's no pictures of them. Or at least know of and like could take pictures and post online, but it's just not that much of like a topic of conversation, especially outside of Hinduism. Outside of Hinduism, they're practically just considered Ammonites, even though. So this is common with them. This is a thing with currents that makes perfect sense. That currents hug the wall and carve around a boundary because they're hugging the wall. And then they also carve at specific like locations that just shape things in patterns that are because of currents that are flowing. This one is probably good as a baculite parallel, since we're able to, as well as this is another good baculite. These from Myron Cook YouTube. Baculites. Same thing, just different scale, different materials being influenced, but the same general, like, that there is a current flowing. In this instance, it's not spiraling, it's just like through a channel that it opens. I'm not sure what to make of it as much as the shaligrams that are more spiraling. They are just the ones I've looked at more, and these ones are just kind of like, but now I'm coming to a location in research where I've ran across similar structures. Again, we don't quite have the flat surfaces I'd like to see. A really distinct bar galaxy bar here. We're looking for reasons that shaligrams cannot be fossils. This is very common, which would make sense if it's caused by currents, where there's this just like missing material, but it's very flawless. It's not, people say erosion, but like they don't really think about it when they say erosion. They think about it from a ammonite like sandstone standpoint. They don't think about it from this stone. Erosion, like why would it do this? Exactly this. Like the degree of detail where it's just like nuancedly etched. Like this one I have here. You can kind of see a little opening. Maybe I can get it in. There's just this like pinpoint. It's like someone took a needle and went doop, doop, and made a little row of openings that are just, they cannot just be casually eroded. They are currents that float. And they're like part of the way the whole of the stone was shaped. It's not just like happenstance of currents float in those two pinpoints while a fossil was present, and that's why there are like these little pinpoint openings that are kind of like following current paths. Here we see some dendrites. Currents just like pushing through. just the perfection here. Like, this makes literally no sense as a fossil. It's so smooth. Like, and this, I don't want to point to the ones as like definitive proof that are not. Like that one, it makes no sense, but it's fine. I don't care. I won't suggest it in like a definitive way. I'm really looking for the strong, like, proof ones as we scroll through here. This one's really like the parallels I've made with the Earth. Let's go to my animations. I believe it's here. Like, it's present. It's present. And then, like, here, this is present. The masses, especially the sifuncles, are noticeable. The final chamber is noticeable. The nucleus is noticeable. This structure, the like dendritic region where current really passed through, it's up here. This like protruding region. The overall opening here, I guess. Let's see. This. I know this is shaped, but I've seen them not shaped and very similar to that. This can be followed around the whole globe, I believe. Let's see if I can do it. Since I'm saying it, I should see if I can do it. Let's see. Here's this like head and then the neck. Was over here. Like this region filled in between the head, so it really was here. With the neck up this way. And then this way to here. With this current like coming in first and creating this wall because it went under the ocean, and then it basically created like pressure here, so the current went around the wall down this way, and then it created the head here, which then space opened and it basically flowed from like right here out over here. Like this right here was over here. Maybe that's why closely related to this salt patch. Myron Cook had another video. I'm like, Myron Cook made another video, dude. Oh my god, I could watch his YouTube videos like. Okay. Let's not get distracted. And this will take me forever. Let's just move on from me following the snakehead completely. I kind of went back to the mantle puncture hole, so I guess that's completely, I guess. This relates seemingly to perhaps the Siberian traps, I was thinking. Or actually, maybe, no, it was Greenland. It was Greenland. Where, like, it produces a deflection in the path of the current travel. Okay, let's move on to actual. I know people who may be watching this. Are like, what in the fuck? Okay. Yeah, let's just let's just follow these though. It's hard to tell after that. Like they seem to kind of fade away over here. This one, a sphere. Look at that, the smoothness of that sphere. It is just the surface roughness of like a pool ball. A sphere. What is that doing there? Can say that's part of the ammonites. I get it, but like other pictures of Shaligrams prove otherwise. It's also splitting, like incredibly, like just the nuance of. Okay, this one is perhaps one of the better ones to get into the concept of the relationships of adjacent systems. If they are fossils, there's no relationship in the alignments of the systems and aspects of them. Notice here, we'll see another one like this one that I have referenced several times and will continue to, because I know it's proof that they're not fossils. Because of how just smooth the transition between these is. But we'll see another one that has a upper like bump, and in that upper bump has a system like this. Notice this system is in line with this system, but like one's going this way, one's going this way, perpendicularly to where this energy flow is. So there's that aspect. And then maybe the shape here, like it goes through the rock this way. Maybe just like the shape plays into creating a spiral here. I'm not sure why there'd be something creating an axis here. Maybe just the pressure here creating held in a container. It's pretty much held in a container because there's an upper pressure, a pressure going up, and then the rock itself as a container, but then it breaks through the container, creating these windows. Like these windows are created in the process, and this is exposed like in the process, which is why a lot of times it stops forming, because it's able to just vent and just like be like this. So this one maybe is a little less like conclusive. This also is a little out of line. Like this looks like it kind of goes up to here, and maybe like their like center point is more so in line, which maybe makes sense. And then this one looks kind of like it points generally to this region, which is kind of in line with this, but other ones are more distinct to that concept. I just wanted to mention it here. Yeah, like right there, right to this edge, and then following in along this to the center is this one. So maybe if I went right to this edge and then like in along to the center, I don't know. So there's a flat face here, and as we can see just by the way it can rest, I guess. I don't know. It looks like there's also some kind of flat face that was against right here because of the way it's so smooth faced here. Basically around this region. Which actually would make kind of sense why this would kind of bubble out over here. Really makes no damn sense from a fossil standpoint. Makes perfect sense from a current standpoint. Current does stuff like this. What exactly was going on in this circumstance? It doesn't really matter. I don't need to explain it. I just need to say current does stuff like this. Like this. I can point to many places like this. Like here. Which is also here. Formed simultaneously at the same location, actually, so they're not really the best example. They're like the same example, even though they're different examples according to modern theories. They're actually the same example, so it doesn't really... As much as I like to be like, good enough, I know they're the same example. But like over here... Over here, where essentially here's a shaligram, by the way, so that's a good pause. We can see coming up to the chakra, the main chakra, opposite another chakra, the opening that formed, and then it blew out the side. But the current that went from here this way ran into this wall and just carved into it, but it like did so in little steps, like little steps here, but like bigger steps too, like here, big step. Possibly got into there. I'm not sure if that's man-made or what's going on there. A big step, step. These little teeth pretty much got into this region here. Also going on over here, where there's a current coming up this way, and pushing in this boundary. I believe that's what's going on at this point. There's generally a current coming down through here, like a large bulk current, but then like the supernova of the particle in the Galapagos hotspot region that is painting the Pacific Rim with gold and like expanding the Earth, pretty much kicking off the KT boundary, expansion of the Earth and allowing the Earth to reach a new steady state so that it's actually at a new equilibrium. It sent a jet this way, inducing the Baja BC motion, bringing literally going through this region, taking material from this region, through this region, up here. I'm not sure exactly the path it took, but essentially depositing it over here, including islands that were over here that had material just taken out of them at some point in the process and deposited over here. Those islands being these ones and these ones especially. Philippines further out north with Sulawesi further south, Baja California adjacent to Papua New Guinea. From here to here was Papua New Guinea, and then from here to here was the eastern boundary of Australia, and then this jet was going northward through this region here, through here, though. So it hit here, and I think it just kind of like, over time, it started to go over this way and created some ripples into here, even Not completely sure. But they're all over the place, those kinds of features, so they're made by currents. We don't need a fossil explanation. I know that's what we've traditionally interpreted it to be, but it really makes no sense here. That's the only picture I have of that rock. Shaligram. Here, it's just like a lot of scattered parts because there was just this like chaotic nova event inside. Just the way this is, it really doesn't make any damn sense fossil wise, but that's okay. The like this kind of shape, just the way it takes rounded shapes and specific shapes that are indicative that they're like related to the fossil. Like, what is going on in this? How is this a fossil? It looks like a peach. Like, it looks like a peach, and maybe not here, but let's find some better ones, conclusive ones. Probably all conclusive, honestly. That's the sad reality, is that we're just swimming in evidence that they're not fossils, and people won't believe it because it's everywhere. Every one of them, every single one of them disproves that they are fossils. That's interesting. The lines actually go oddly straight. See that? Curving, 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 straight? Like, it's too straight. It's like pointing back here. Like, what's it doing? I guess it's straight here. I guess it's possible that it actually truly bends back. Okay, although it's possible that there is like evidence of things like that where there's just the current didn't flow, so whatever is beneath some really not matrix, like these are not, this is not removed from the fossil. Where ammonites, we remove this type of material. Okay, I feel like we saw that one, or one so similar. The way this is this thing here, this thing here. It doesn't have like four of them, but it is very much like this. Also, this thing I come across regularly to a point where it's almost like it's always. Another one. This is not. This is not because someone did this to this stone. This is actually in the stone. I've come across enough of them this is not some like sanding process where they put little divots that circle around the stone. This is currents that induced divots in the stone. See it? You see them, right? You see them? See them there? They're all over the place if you look at Shaligrams. Not always. Here's the one right here. This Shaligram could be in a museum as a disproof of all of science, really. Again, we have this like upper segment with the offshoot. Let's imagine there's a current here, and then there's this like space in which the current can flow. And then there's a hard boundary, like the rind of the rock, that's just a little more cooler, has cooled off, or just a harder, more able to contain the currents just enough to create like a shell to kind of encourage the current through the rock still instead of just out the rock. And then it ultimately ends up reaching the boundary over it as it spirals out to this region and breaking through, but not before inducing an offshoot current over here that then literally is one unit, because it's current flowing as one unit that's really connected. Oh, I'm gonna die and live all the lives, huh? Destined to realize. Or maybe destined never to realize. Here. Oh my god. It's literally the Shaligram shape of it carving out the etching. This one is etching over there. We'll come into another. Let's see if we can find another one. That's the bottom. Little nub. Like, kind of like that. Like this, etching over here. This one's a good example. This one's a good example of why it's currents. Like, it literally breaks through at the very most distance. Like, imagine a current is wrapping around the boundary of the structure. It physically would go to the very most distant location before exiting from. And so it preferentially would go here. And then along the boundary, this location is probably related to a cross current involving this location that is present in the stone. So this kind of thing, though, is also occurring right here. But it's not so, like, complete in this stone as to create a fossil. It just creates this like beginning of the carving. But these stones, so what is going on there? Like, there's no actual explanation in terms of fossils of what is going on there. What did the fossil do? It was contained here and back there, but it's not actually there at all. But it was there enough to shape the rock. But it also had this weird like anomaly, also the way it curves there. Looks like that doesn't actually quite go to there, almost like because of the like complexity of this point. The way this was interacting with it kind of bent around it here and around it like that. Like something like this needs, it almost needs some form of rock radar to really look at the innards of this structure right here and be like, okay, what's going on in here? Because there's not going to be the distinct structures that would be present if a fossil had been entrapped. It's not there because the currents were subtle. What's there is the outlets that we can see visibly, but there's going to be a much more like this subtle like type of features going on. Oh my god. Like what the Okay, let's move on from this one. This one though, I will sit I will there's no turning back. I know this is not a fossil. You can't persuade me otherwise. Try though. You gotta try. If you think it's a fossil, why? Let's hear it. Let's hear it, guys. Sorry to laugh. Let's actually hear it and have the debate. Let's go. Not a fossil. They just love to stack, huh? Oh yeah, they get all entrapped together. And yet they get entrapped together, and yet they perfectly get entrapped in like the boundaries of the rocks, like frequently. Smooth, like in these smooth ways too. Again, the top and above and below. I don't think that's the same rock. Okay, back to this one. See if there's anything else of interest to point out here. I mean, generally, for sure, is that there, again, noticeably, the boundary is being carved out. Boundary. This one's pretty crazy. That. What did that? A living creature was there and did that. Oh, yeah. Whatever, dudes. Or current did it, whatever. We can go with any option, I guess, is possible. If we don't allow currents to be a possibility, then fossils is certainly possible, I guess. And some kind of creature that crawled through there and created that shape that's just kind of etched in the side of the stone as if a current was flowing there, etching into the stone. Maybe etching into it in other ways, like in a spiral vortex kind of way. I don't know. But I must be insane. Diluted for sure. For sure diluted. What else have people called me recently? Crazy. Okay. Not sure what to make of this one. It's hard to tell without like having this one in my hand what is even happening. Like because it's like straight down in this image, like it kind of needs to be more like side at a 45-degree angle, more from like this angle maybe. I don't know, to make out what's going on there more. Just looks kind of flat. I know this is there, here, so there's definitely this going on over here. But here... Okay, another one of that kind of thing. Which is noticeable how there's a positive, negative, a material, and a void. You know, from an atom kind of sense, that's actually probably pretty useful to be aware of. Maybe we should consider this from an atom sense. Oh, they're fossils, though. You guys were right, they're fossils even though they can't be. Literally cannot be. It's funny, I know, sorry. Okay. Settle down. This one's interesting the way it has, like... almost like because of the shape of the rock. This one also, really interestingly, right here, was bubbling open. Like the crust broke and an underlayer bubbled up here, but it did not open. It just sat there like that. Whereas over here, fully got opened and went through the process. So there's that going on. Like the shape of this stone, it's not random also. Like there's one here on the corner of this stone. This one's revealing. There's probably one here, and one here. Maybe one here. I would love to see the innards of this stone also, even though there's openings here, it doesn't mean there's not like internal structures that just haven't shaped the outer stone to be visible. Just by the shape of the stone, a lot of times this is something common with Shaligrams that I will point out is why they're made by currents. Like this one is really conclusive also that it has that, so let's keep that in mind. Okay. This here, like, yeah, that was a fossil. It's just like debris, and then this little like you can even see the poking holes, little poked hole, like the way it goes, like, but especially a hole here, here, and then like here, as if a current like notched in for a second and then like notched in and some kind of exterior current that was flowing. So that suggests that these currents are also like, they're pretty much, if we watch, this is probably a good pause to watch the sun. Let's just watch the sun for a second here. Anything look familiar? Maybe like this. Something of that nature is going on in circumstances like this, where there's a current flowing into the stone that's like that. Whereas over here, there are more things of this kind of currents. So when like things like this happen, I just was thinking maybe it would be useful for reference. I don't know if anything from that was something that rang a bell to point out. Just maybe you had some insights if you're actually listening and not just listening to reject what I'm saying. Okay, let's move on. Some other cool stuff. This one, just the shape. I know that doesn't matter much, but it's very circular in this instance. And maybe even reflective of the rock's more circularness. I don't know if that's true. Again, with like a carved out line. And then it's seemingly the carved out line produces a vortex at the end. Like it went this way, started here, and then it kind of went into the stone and then spiraled. Not a fossil, dude. The way it does this, like steps, this is very common also. Like it hits resistance and bends, hits resistance, bends, hits resistance, bends. I'm not sure why it's doing it here, but that's a common thing to have happen. Okay, this one, just notice this. This image, nothing too like crazy going on. It's kind of a shaligram, like, okay, fine. You know, it's got the typical shaligram features that are common enough to just be like, okay, and it's a pretty unique shape though. Like it doesn't seem to have like a structured shape, right? Oh, now it really seems like to have a structure to it, like this, this, this. Why is it like that? What? Because there's fossils contained within it. The rock chose to take a highly structured shape. And like these are found like this. It's not like anyone took a matrix out and exposed like this was not cleaned up. Maybe to a degree, but like this is the matrix. It wasn't removed. Noticeably, the matrix of this ammonite turns into the hand's wrist. This hand, where the finger just spirals in, because that's pretty much what it is a current. It must be. I don't know. I haven't thought about this yet. It's very common. That's got a hand of God, James Webb Space Telescope. this. Where in the hell is the whole image? That's good enough. So like if this goes back into here, which I believe basically happens if this is basically a current going this way that then runs into resistance here at a boundary of a system here, which is visible here in X-ray, I think. And then the current ends up feeding out the side here and filling this space around, going around basically, especially atop it on like a hand kind of way along like this, the top side. But then it runs into resistance and just pushes into it, like penetrates the resistance. But then if it really runs into resistance where it can, then it can bend the current, but there's still a current flowing. Like basically there's resistance, there's a current flowing pushing this way, but there's a resistance over here, so the current has to bend back, but then there's a current pushing this way, so then the current bends back and it spirals instead of flowing freely. So maybe something of that nature is related to what happened here. I don't know. This one's incredible too. The way it lays. Like here, we have a flat face with a shaligram. This one. This one. On this flat face here, and then it's basically the hand lays atop it. Oh my god, this thing is... So it's like down here, beneath here. Like here. It's kind of tilting it. But maybe even interacting with it, like this, the current goes this way, and then bends through this finger, down through here, through here, through here, and then out through this, through here. I mean, the way this chamber looks almost looks like an exit chamber. There's like a bunch of current flowing back here that spirals down, and then it spirals here and then exits when it breaks through. Notice how currents can explain this kind of thing? Like, it's kind of weird that they can. Just because I'm making it up doesn't mean it's not actually explaining the observations. I know there's more nuance that I'm not in any way addressing that people are offended by me not addressing, but you go ahead and address it. Because this is true. Deal with it. I don't know what to tell you. You're gonna have to accept it sooner or later. Other me. Even if I'm not alive, like the world one day will be like, you know, these aren't fossils, actually. Like these, they can't be fossils. Like, how is this a fossil? Explain to me how this is a fossil. This, to me, notice how the rock is, it's a little unbalanced, maybe. It's, let's see. Guess I don't have any other pictures. Maybe that one alone, if that was one. That one maybe is it. I don't know. I don't think so. 39A, 39B. Okay, that's it. That's the bottom side face, I guess. So above this, which is kind of interesting, it has this like divot and a divot, so it has this kind of chamber here, and then elongated and rounded. Elongated, rounded. Okay. Elongated, rounded. Yeah. So this here, this is actually over here. While over here is this side. But the point is, with this one, is if we look though, it has a explosive current out this way that is imbalanced, and so it's mostly going out this way. And here, it also went out this way, but it's like almost as a backstop. Like it flows out this way as a backstop, so that then this current can flow out this way. Because the pressure is generally pushing it out to bubble this way. And just create layers. Like this, it makes no actual sense for fossils unless you just make a species up every time you see a new anomaly, which at some point just doesn't make any damn sense. If you looked at Shaligrams, you'd have to make up a new species for every Shaligram, practically. But people don't inspect them like that. To a degree, but not like that. Just kind of accept they're all fossils and move on. Like, what's a fossil doing here? I don't know what exactly is going on with the current, but a current can do stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't see why not. This current makes sense to me. Not seeing the problem with currents doing this either. So, yeah. It's a little odd, but that's because it's cool and revealing, and that we need to figure out what's going on with currents if we want to understand these things. I'm just pointing in the direction, really, and getting as far as I can. But I am limited. I'm one person. People like, what's your theory can't even explain blah 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 blah. You know, we explained that so me versus who? Oh yeah, thousands of people across generations with how much money invested? Oh yeah, the whole world supporting your movement of what you're saying that you believe. Versus me, yeah, it looks like it's probably gonna appear in your favor. Doesn't make it so. Hey. Like the way there's this little thing off here. I'd love this and this here. It's almost like stalagmites. I don't know, like growth, growths that occur from current flows. Simple as that. And layers, just like really revealing dimensions of how things are. Just like an entire layer supported by a support structure. This one I found. I mean, maybe we can. I would like to see straight lines on actual living creatures, although maybe they exist. I found that a little odd. But more so, what I found revealing was that there was a carving here. We can see it was etching out chunk, 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 just cutting an energy that was just carving out chunks as it spiraled out and grew in its capacity, but then it basically reached a point where it stopped. And so it left behind this segment. And this segment, again, disproves all of science. It just disproves it. Like, this would not happen by fossilization. This shows a current was carving this rock and then it stopped. And that current had teeth, so it made teeth. Because it's pretty much a wave that's like tooth like a saw. It's probably like a heat ethereal energy kind of thing. I'm really not sure what exactly the current is, but it doesn't matter what it is. It matters that it is, and then what it is the next question. And the people get like caught up on the next question when the first question is still in like need of being recognized. That there is a question. Yeah, currents are doing this, not fossilization because it's not fossils. And also the Earth is not as old. These were formed in the time frame of 10,000 years ago by the Earth expansion process due to a vortex weapon that punctured the mantle. Sorry, not sorry, dudes. Gotta look at my decade almost of evidence where I quit my job and invested my entire life savings and all my friendships, relationships are pretty much gone. Invested by choice, knowing, watching it all happen. People like casually approach my work. Oh, but I know better already. I already know better than the words you just told me of conclusions you have from that decade of research after, mind you, finding the theory of everything. Step one, discover theory of everything. Step two, all this other subsequent stuff leading to Shaligrams, which is 8 years later. Shaligrams come into the picture somewhere around 8 years in, which was actually I'm saying decade. It was 2014 June, so it was actually not even 9 years, 8 years and 7 months since I quit my job and began this process. And it was not until probably about 8 years into that process, so 7 months ago, something at most, when Shaligrams even were on my radar. I didn't even know what Shaligrams were. I understand I'm a novice in terms of the topic at hand, so it appears that I don't know what I'm talking about. I understand that, but I also understand that I understand what I'm talking about. Sorry, not sorry again, though. Okay. Even though you're me in another life, and I'm like, I was such an asshole. I'm like, fuck me. This straight line parallel to this. Very odd. The way it's etching in the sides, but like just etching. It's just etched. That's imprinted. I don't have much to say on these, just that they are quite anomalous in general. Here's like explosive material in the background from a supernova type event of the particle that's not existent anymore at the point between the two chakras. Some just like pinpoint precision carving of the rock. Also, we can see again the just divots, the shaping of the rock from currents. This. Just really nice definition. This one's clear as day. It was not a fossil. What's it doing in the side of this rock like this? Like the way this is. It's just too smooth and like perfect. Like if it was eroded, it doesn't really make sense. It's just sticking out. Alright, I'll give you guys that one. You can have that one. Enjoy. Oh wait, what about this? This like real that's right, yeah. This real fine probably like if you touch that with enough force it would break off kind of looking thing there. Erosion though? What about that thing? That thing's just hanging out, huh? Alright. Again with those blobs. This one, I mean, what the hell? Like, what? This doesn't make any sense from fossils. There's just stuff kind of arranged. I know you guys think it makes sense if you're like incredulous about every word I say, but it really doesn't if you actually think about it. Like this one right here, it has specks on the four corners indicating that there's like structures, which are really reminiscent of like islands that are polygonal in nature, like over here. Maybe these ones. Let's see if we can find one with some corner structures to them. Some of them have actual, like, defined corners. I forget which one I referenced specifically in the past. Maybe it's over here. Anything that runs in this stream is like a bubble. So it doesn't really have polygonal. It's a polygonal boundary without like interior material mostly. So it has like a hard boundary. Alright, that kind of thing though. There's something of that nature going on with those. This one looks like Australia. It literally looks like Australia. I have so many tabs open when I do that. Maps again, maps again, maps again. Maps again. Okay, maybe not like utterly. It's even got like a side, dude. A little lower than this side. Like straight across is maybe to like here, so a little lower. A little lower. And then up, and then a bend up, and then maybe a bend kind of in this region. I don't know. Let's go the other way here. I know the top doesn't match that well. Straight across. Kind of just meandering down to here. Not quite the like scale or like the same positioning. A little more going on here than here. Reason that matters is because Australia, it's not just like Australia. Australia is like this handbag thing under the surface that has an ammonite here. So like maybe there's some subtle flow that's like right here that was colliding currents in this region, like similar to the currents revolt that caused Australia, where there's a current coming in here, there's a current coming in this way, there's a current coming in this way, there's a current coming in this way. They just pinch this region off and contain it, but then current gets into it. But then it ends up shaping Hawaii or Australia, which is right here. I mean, and it may be that there's similar currents involved, and that's why it has that shape. Like it's not like Australia is unique in its shape, or even North America and South America. Like these shapes are just results of currents that just naturally occur, where we can see the same shapes repeated. And be like, that's because currents were involved that were the same types of currents and that can shed light onto XYZ and really begin to connect things in ways that I can only begin to fathom. Again, currents puncturing maybe along lines. I don't know what's going on here. It's interesting. It's kind of got like a boundary here, and then that's not at the boundary. Just incredible. Not a fossil. Okay, let's move on though. It doesn't matter if that's not a fossil. That's not like one of the ones that I would point to conclusively. It's more of like a supplemental, yeah, they're not fossils kind of thing. The sphere here that's just smooth and elongated. So not a sphere. But still, the way this is nice and smooth, the way these are, like these are current based. I've talked about this in the past. The way they're positioned is very much suggestive of that there were current flows in the positions that were where the pressure, essentially where the last possible moment for the current to run into resistance. Like it's not as much resistance in here, so it goes through the region that doesn't have as much resistance to a point where it really runs into resistance of this material and just kind of feeds current through that location and just literally differentiates the material. Somehow, I'm not sure exactly what's going on with the changing of the material by the process. If it's literally like a nuclear fusion, even on an atomic scale, by the currents flowing in a way where, like, it changes the atoms, literally. It may be. I know people don't understand what I'm talking about to be possible, but it just may be. But it requires supernova to make atoms. Are you sure? Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure the Earth did it in mass, as I've described in detail. So I'd probably check in on that first before, definitively concluding anything. This structure here, kind of interesting. The way, again, carving out the boundary, just constantly carving out the boundary. Carving out the boundary. Carving out the boundary. Like, where's the fossil that's carving out this boundary? Like, shouldn't it fossilize enough to, like, change the rock and not just leave some remnant of its presence? Like this? Like, why is it like this here and like this here? It doesn't really make actual sense when it clearly was indented into the rock from this position relating to this here. Like, this is this oddly missing components, almost like it didn't do it as well. As create as much structure, I guess, just carved it out. Okay, here's another particle splitting. This one's incredible because it's literally a splitting nucleus, splitting cell, splitting whatever, dividing. It's like it's about to supernova and it freezes. Explode, freeze. It breaks the sides and then lets enough energy out to just like stop doing what it's doing, and it just freezes like that. Breaks through the sides, stops process, but in the meantime creates something that clearly cannot be a fossil. I know. Like, why are these fossils just protruding from the stone? But, like, always visible in the stone. I've watched people on YouTube go to the location and pick them up off the ground, and they are not taking matrix off. They are presently finding them like this. This is how they find them. Ammonites, they take the matrix off and get it so that they can see the fossil. But, like, the fossil is exposed on these. It doesn't need to be removed from matrix because it's exposed. Why is it exposed? Oh, well, they're in some other matrix somewhere else, I guess. Maybe that's possible. This sphere. Another, like, a compressed sphere, though. This. Did you see that coming? You know what I'm saying? Looking at this, right? Oh. Surely this thing's not also carving into the rock, creating this structure. Oh my god, where it must be the other side. Where is that? It must be. I didn't see it coming, that's all I'm saying. Like, where's the fossil? You guys are just making stuff up to explain this. There's no actual explanation for how this just is gone, leaving behind a perfectly etched out boundary that really doesn't like connect through. Like it because narrow threads of current were breaking through and then fanning out enough to open gaps. But over here, like, where's that even happening? Because it's over here on this side. So the currents are like, there's no connection from this to this. I'm sure we could find like evidence of precise paths that the current traveled to produce features like this. Another sphere. This one, the way it does this is very common for when it sprays, like streams in the arches like this. Seems to physically take the sphere and then like a screw, it screws into the sphere and begins to strip material beneath the screw layer that then just fans out along the boundaries, running into the resistance and transforming this boundary. This one cannot be a fossil. Someone feel free to explain to me how this blob that is not explainable by just some lodged material because of its shape. It is the remnants of a supernova within this system. On the scale where the supernova was the particle that was right here between the chakras, its nova sent material this way that essentially broke the chamber open enough to cause exchange between the interior and exterior, and then the system just cooled and froze because it just allowed the venting to occur of the contained energy that was shaping the stone and shaping the system into like a galactic structure. But then the star or galaxy center, whatever, nova, they all function the same, even though we don't understand black holes whatsoever. I have shed light on them. I know you ain't heard, but that's I. Just the way it's like got this side here, this angle here, really definitely hits the wall, joins like as one with the wall. Boom, hits the wall, goes up through here, transforms atoms or differentiates or just rearranges them in a way that makes them look different. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the color changes, but an energy exchange happens that changes the appearance more than just like opening, but just what's there. And then there we are with this blob that is shaped in a truly like geometric way. It's not just arbitrary. It's got like a straight side over here. That's all the pictures I have. I think they sold this one. It's only like $50. That's what's crazy. This exploding particle. Remnants of a supernova in a stone. $50. I couldn't even afford it. No support, except my parents who are kind enough to support me. But they can't like supplement my like I would totally have bought many Shaligrams that I'm showing you guys if I could. Not that it's the most pressing thing, but for research, like this one, I would have immediately bought the moment I saw it. It already sold, but I would have fucking got that thing. I would have been. This one is probably this, like simultaneously. This one, the hand one, and the one with the two that are one are probably the three best Shaligrams I've seen at Disproving all of science. Drop the mic. Lapel on the microphone stand thing. Style mic drop. There's a sphere in here though. Let's check it out. There it is. See it? So this stone has a sphere within the current flows, but we see the flow itself is so one with the fossil. Like, why would it do this right here? It's so one with it. It makes literally no sense. It's one with the fossil. Overlapping the fossil. And then containing without really like the top of it. Presumably, I don't know. Like, this structure contains this system. It's hard to say what's going on here, but like, it appears like there's very little like fossil Shaligram structure between this overlay and just boom, there they go. The bottom of the overlay is a chakra that has that particle here and has the feature. I'm sure it has features like this above too on the bottom surface of this, but there's no like intermediary, which means this thing, which wraps around the Shaligram perfectly like a snake, hugging it. Around atop it, looking like a hexagram with like a indentation side. Just like someone shaped it. Like it looks shaped by hand or by an artist. Like it doesn't arbitrarily have a shape. Which, if a fossil were to be just contained in a material without really currents flowing, it just would not have this smooth type of features. Like, this takes currents to shape. Conclusive proof that Shaligrams are not fossils. Right here, this one. Again, this one's cool because it's almost like a galactic disc at the end of like a shoe or something. Some big long rock. It's got that on the other side. Another one. This one goes. You can really see defined the way this is here is really reminiscent of this here. If we go to this one, the way it's just very defined. Also, conclusive proof they're not fossils 101. part of another huge shaligram. This one, I think I went over somewhere else. Wait. Oh, this one was just cool. I don't think we can see inside. I took pictures of it anyway because it was just clearly epic. I'm sure it could be broken into and inside is epic, but it itself didn't open, so like they don't open them. If it didn't open itself, then they remain closed, so we don't get to see what's inside this, which is good. It's cool to know that there's like lots going on inside of it, but it's contained still. It's almost like it's still contained. Doesn't quite have the same exchange with the exterior. Maybe it's a little more alive. Whoa. Currents are definitely not flowing anymore, really, so I'm sure it's pretty much the equivalent to this, but maybe a little more subtle energy alive, though. I don't know. Never know. Down like whiplash down through infinite layers. Another one of those like screws cutting into the particle and just removing it and distributing it. Again, same thing. Again, we're just seeing these like etchings, suggestive of currents. Same thing there. There's the other ones again there, again there. This one kind of spirals. Reminds me of like those, as kids, some kind of like firecracker thing that was a snake. You light it up and it just uncoils kind of randomly, but like snake-like thing going on. It kind of reminds me of how this one did. It's not quite as much as just like a bow. It looks more like it kind of got coiled around and then just kind of thrown out. Okay, that one again. I don't know why I have more than one of that one. This one, reminiscent of Damodar Kund, where Shaligrams are from. Which is here. How it just has this and this, then one of those openings from a focus current that was coming through that location specifically. Just these openings with a region between. I assure you that this lake, these two bodies of water are conjoined underneath the surface. Although maybe it's been somewhat filled by sediment by now because of gravity, I guess, in the water. But maybe not, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if someone was given permission to put a submersible drone. Because it's really not deep. Like, you could easily take one of those ones that are for lakes and put it in there and see what it looks like down inside. It's a sacred lake, so it's really not something to be doing like scientific experiments in, but like if we can just view that it is a shaligram would be incredible. To be able to just view inside the lakes with one of those submersible drone cameras just for the sake of seeing inside of it, if we could, would be cool. But if it showed the Shaligram features, oh my god, that would be just groundbreaking. Like a tunnel. Where it looks like pretty much people walk in here and walk over here. Oh, la la la, look at this lake. Oh. They get out to the edge, they go over here. There's like a region that's not. There's like a deep opening at the center that looks just like a cavity. But like they kind of la 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 bathe in it, and then but don't necessarily like go in the opening and swim over to the other side. Never have. Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe. You never know. You know, we never considered if these were caused by currents. Maybe no one ever swam through Damn Raccoon. It was like, oh, that's a freaking Shaligram right there. Yeah, proof positive. I don't know. Again, with those features, like the wall, which is at this wall is near that lake I was just showing. I don't know exactly where it is. I just saw it in a YouTube video that I've talked about previously. So I don't know where it is anymore. But when I first talked about it, that YouTube video, I've never seen it in other YouTube videos. Just one. Another sphere, and just a bunch of just like oddities. This is real strong evidence of currents again, the boundary, and then just these pockets where the currents was able to get through. Like over here, basically over here, it did this, but it removed it all. So like at some point, it's able to just carve out the boundaries completely, and the chunk is removed. And then the next chunk would be like over here getting removed. Maybe it is kind of like that. Where it actually is physically so much current within it, and then outside that it vortexes though, and just shoves chunks out, but like the current keeps flowing until it reaches enough chunks removed to have space to stop removing the chunks. Until then the current stops flowing, and then here we are. I don't know. This one is very much like Damn It Raccoon again. What? Didn't I just have that open though? This is closer. Like this region, which is known to be caused by currents. As someone, I pointed out to someone who was like, well, that's caused by currents. I was like, yeah, exactly. That's caused by currents. So is that. Not fossils. Glad you agree. Oh, you don't agree? Oh, I see. I see. I see. I see. You do you. You do you. That again, just with the carved out little threads of current, not like wide distributions of current through this whole region, but threads along the boundary. Threads along the boundary. Like, what is going on here? Where's the fossil? Oh, it just broke. It's always a broken pieces excuse for why, when currents could actually just do it by the current like stopping mid-process. It doesn't really need a physical object to be present to have this happen in the rock. Kind of going on here, like what's going on here? What's going on there? Just this like wall. Again, kind of at the corner. Kind of at the side here. I don't know if I've been paying attention to those kind of features at the nodes. This rock's incredible. It's got like a freaking that head again, the snake head with even with like a region here that seems to tend to happen. it seems to be an eyeball. I know I'm a little stretching it there, but just like it's positioned in that location. But there's kind of one here, 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 all over the place. But just because there's one like right here, maybe it is kind of eyeball-y. But like this is caused by currents. Currents that relate to this. People just don't know what they're talking about. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just true. I know you want to say the same back, but that's not true because you don't know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about their fossils. They're not fossils. You don't know what I'm talking about because you've never heard it in your life. So how can you possibly draw judgment if this is the first time you're exposed to the concept? Unless you have, or you agree. Pardon me. I tend to talk to people who are not like the scientists in this moment who really shouldn't be who I'm talking to because they basically make me speak to them and not just like be allowed to speak the truth that I know. I have to like amend my words where then I'm like defending my words, and now like history will forever have my words spoken be me defending my words rather than just speaking that which is. Which side of effect of this process, like because I engage, but like people won't engage with me, and the only way to be engaged with is to jump through the hoops of what people expect me to do. So I do it to a degree, even though I always am like, well, you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Keep making me do things that are like show you don't know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to like suffice you with more elaborate explanation, but just like continuously met with this resistance. That's just part of the world I'm in now, and probably not the world where people will actually be listening to me. So maybe I should talk to the people who are actually listening to me, and not the arrogant asshats, pardon me, who are also me in another life, who just basically were taught that arrogance. That's what education does. Like a school education, you paid for it. You gotta feel that you like earned something of worth paying for. So like, in order for you to be happy that you paid for your education, we have to teach you arrogance. You have to be like, that was worth it. All these noobs still know what they're talking about. That was worth it. That was worth it. Paid for that and I paid well. Worth it. I'll do it again and again. Haven't paid it off, but I paid for it. Yeah, I was 18 at the time. It made sense then. I didn't know anything of the world. I just trusted the adults who I trusted to not be lying to me, using everyone for the lies to be maintained rather than admitting to the lies. I figured that wasn't happening, but apparently I figured wrong. But luckily they've got this education system set up that I can pay to be indoctrinated through and just believe things that aren't actually thought through completely. Although, same, bruh. Fair. I don't know the ramifications of telling you the truth. That's the thing. That's the problem. Is yes, this is thought through, and that I know what I'm talking about. They are shallow. They are not fossils. They're caused by currents. I don't know what that will like cause to occur in society for that can of worms to be actually open. Like, it's not the Pandora box. I don't know what the outcome is of people knowing a greater truth than is presently known. At least in science, pardon me, people who do know greater truths, who either are suppressed or choose to keep it to themselves because they're more humble than I am, and more, perhaps more long-term, eternal perspectived than I am. Maybe I'm long-termed, but not eternal perspective enough. Like, I view society as a little short-termed, and think of myself as maybe more able to see in the long term. But there may be a more humble, like, eternal view thing going on that I'm not quite attaining, that relative to, I'm much more in the short-term viewpoint kind of angle. All things relative. Okay, let's just finish. Yeah, more things that are just defined as fuck. Indicative that there's not just casual erosion going on. Makes no sense. Erosion just does not actually explain what is happening here. That's pretty cool. I don't know what to make of it. There's the way the lines again with the etchings. It's almost like the ocean floor spreading. I mean, it's possible that they formed practically as like empty bubbles in which material flowed. I don't know what I'm talking about in that regard. Some kind of ocean floor spread. I don't know how that would be not more obvious though, that this was caused by spreading of the stone. Like, that doesn't really. But this is very the reason I'm even entertaining that line of reasoning is because it's just so reminiscent of the ocean floor versus, like, over here it's not so reminiscent of. It's much more reminiscent of the ocean floor. Again, just cutting out the boundary. This one with, like, part of the particle left over to the side. Because particles explode and leave behind parts of themselves. And that's like this one I have here. It's impossible to see in this light. I must have pictures somewhere. Although I don't think I saved them to this folder. Essentially, it's just got something like that. It's just something like that, but it's real subtle. Like, you could physically touch it and break it off. That's how subtle it is. I could take a pen, just be like, and just break it because it's so delicate. Where's the erosion? That's all I'm saying. What's going on here? It's almost as if currents could kind of bubble out to one side, but not to the other in some instances, like over here. Like right here, we don't really see bubbling out on this side, but we see bubbling out here, followed by bubbling out to maybe here, followed by bubbling out to here, followed by bubbling out to here, maybe here, like generally bubbling out this to the boundary over here. So just continuously larger bubbling out in a way that is like that. Like this tiny little focal point too. Okay, I think we're just about through these. This is more traditional ammonite-like looking shaligram here, which shows that it's the same processes. It really connects the processes between the two, and shows that ammonites also can be caused by currents because shaligrams are caused by currents, and begins to open that door, which I've also established that ammonites are caused by currents, and we don't need to interpret them as being caused by fossils, fossilization. Like here's an ammonite on a larger scale, and then here's a trilobite on the side of a mountain, 2,000 feet for scale. 2,000 feet, so it's about like the width of the eye. 2,000 feet. Couple miles long. Spine, so it's subtle, but it's present. The eye is very defined. This eye has degraded, like broken down into different components, like a yin-yang constituents that it seemingly was composed of. It has a third eye of a heart. So there's that, even though that's not ammonites. Let's see, Hawaii. Ammonite 1, 2, 3. In the terrain of the big island of Hawaii is this. These features are present in the terrain. This feature is present. Let's see if we can find it. I didn't just draw this shit like, haha, they won't be able to tell there was nothing there underneath it. Ha ha ha. Haha, I got him. I forever rewrote science by drawing over top of this map. No. I saw the presence of the structures, and I drew atop them. Okay. Here is really here. So this is the most defined, perhaps. This region. Where this green structure is this. The pink structure I'm just like, fuck it, maybe I did just kind of cheat that one. Generally follow this curve this way to here. This one is going through, so the streams at the time when I was making this, these streams seemed like relevant to the overall process. That there was streams going through that was then creating like a overall spiral involved. But the streams were like focal points of the channels of currents flowing at the time. So we can literally follow the streams and the structures through and just see how many features are present. So over here, just moving on, because I do seem like I just must have jumped there. Maybe I did to a degree kind of cheat that little stretch, or I just drew it for completion's sake to make it more clear what I was suggesting here in that instance. Okay, let's follow it. This curve is clear right here. It's just more so like this gap. Then we can kind of just reconnect over here though. I think that's reasonable enough. Reconnecting it over here. Maybe it should have been more up that way though. Like up this way even. But then this section is one of the like actual these are segments of the ammonite that have like names is my interpretation, like I did with the other one. I didn't bother to do it with this one, and maybe it's not as easily doable. Where what am I looking for? This. Here, here. Like there's segments within it. I'm pretty sure there's another side of this picture that has like a nucleus type of thing here. I forget what it's called. Some kind of, what essentially is this structure. That's a little more clear than this image is showing, because this is only one side. I think it rotated. But yeah, this region here, generally here, but then over here, in the terrain, it starts to get more like rough. Not as just able to just be lush greenery. As if it's getting like a dendritic structure over here that was essentially inducing the lack of capacity for plants to grow as easily, making it more dendritic over there. Okay, let's find this one. Starts from here. Okay, we can kind of see the boundary right there of something that I outlined for sure. Okay, there it is. That's the blue one here. Blue one here. Pink one here, or whatever this color is. This one here. And then the bigger one here. Creating like a lobe thing or whatever, which seems to repeat over and over, so like that's also down further. Here was that one, let's see. This here, this is relevant as like I was thinking something like a siphuncle exit chamber type thing was in these locations, almost like water below the surface was caused to flow through the surface within the surface because it was just so saturated, and it was spiraling from heat present maybe at the time, and then caused the water to exit through portals pretty much that were just these locations of these two spots here that just made them darker. Let's see, well, that left one darker. I'm not sure what I circled here. This one's kind of arbitrary, maybe. It must have been more so based off of this line and here. That's a road. Although maybe it's based on features, but it irritates. It honestly, anyone who's listening to me judging me, it fucking irritates me because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and you're literally jumping in at the end of 9 years of work and acting like you do. That's the truth. You gotta jump to here. Let me show you where to begin. at the beginning. Sorry, not sorry. That's how it works. You can do what you want, but like, I'm just thinking, like, people are just gonna be like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, look at the, like, it's subtle. It's so subtle. So it's really like, this is clear, but then you have to be willing to be. I'm realizing it's subtle to a point where it's maybe a little too easily attackable, and it's irritating because people will find holes and just ignore what I have to say because they're fucking lazy, honestly. I understand you don't want to look at all my research. Oh, I'd rather just conclude you're wrong. It's way easier to look at one thing that I can just pinpoint. But you're wrong about this, even though I don't know what the fuck you're talking about overall, and therefore don't know what the fuck you're saying. It's almost like a different language, but you speak the same language as me, so it seems as if I know what you're talking about, but I really don't speak your fucking language whatsoever, babe. I don't think I do. It's that kind of thing going on. Okay. Let's go on, though, before I go getting too annoyed and also arrogant in my own way, I know. Let's see. Can we find more features? Let's go to another one of these. Okay. Again, here's that spiral. This segment, so I went on this one, I went way down here even. This pretty much looks like maybe here, yeah, this boundary here, which is naturally there, up this way, around the nucleus of this one, which then comes up here to the dendrite region, way more cool and defined in this one than this one's kind of just like in the greenery. This one goes up and crosses boundaries into the Mauna Loa pretty well to like really have differentiation across like the appearance and make it a little more clear that there's cross currents of some variety that maybe are illuminating on why exactly, like maybe these tend to happen at the base of hills in essence. Just maybe what kind of was happening in Australia in some total energy sense relative to the mantle puncture hole. I don't know what I was doing there. Okay, guys, this is over 2 hours. I know anyone who's listening probably is awesome. So thanks for listening. I'll see you all later. Peace out.